Winter Roses, Summer by fairytalelovr. Chapter 6. The Calm Before. Jon woke up in a very familiar situation, with Daenerys sleeping fast in his arms. But this time, there was nothing between them. They were both naked, skin against skin. Unable to resist, his hand slid down her side and to every bit of her satiny skin that he could reach, until she stirred, waking up and burrowing further into his embrace. "It's nice to not have Isla come and drag me away," she said sleepily. Jon chuckled. "Very nice," he agreed, placing kisses down her throat. As nice can be." Catelyn steeled herself before she knocked on the door, but didn't give up. Enough is enough, she thought one more time.
"Can I help you with something, Lady Stark?"
Ned asked, barely taking his attention from his work. She almost flinched at his cold tone. "I was wondering if we could speak, Ned." The man sighed, putting his quill down and sitting back on his chair.
"What is it, Catelyn?"
"I miss you."
"Do you? Or do you miss being able to do as you pleased?"
She recoiled, wounded. "I miss what we had, what we built together."
"What did we build? A lie? You know." He sighed again. "I didn't marry you for love, Catelyn, and neither did you. We married for duty. We spent our wedding night together, then for the next 2 years we were on opposite sides of the realm. Once we met again, I had betrayed you, and you spent another 2 years resenting me for it. Until one day, you allowed our marriage to flourish. I wonder now if your way of forgiving me was blaming Jon."
"You are my husband."
"I am not without flaw. I went to war and brought home a bastard. More than that, I brought home the daughter of the tyrant I helped overthrow as his betrothed."
"Daenerys is a princess." Ned blinked, a piece falling into place.
"Would you rather she was betrothed to Robb?"
Catelyn blushed. I mean, why reward a bastard?" She spewed the word out as if it was poison.
Ned wasn't able to hold back, laughing loudly. "Oh, Catelyn, how little you know. Why didn't you ever talk to me about this? This was no reward. This was a punishment. A punishment for Daenerys, and, in Robert's mind, a way to reward me after I'd refused his offer to grant Jon legitimacy in deference to you."
Catelyn blinked, forcing her chin not to fall open. "He had... but then..." Before she could recover from the shock, Ned was continuing.
"But it was also a way to needle me for judging him for what happened to Rhaegar's children during the sack. Trust me, the capital is not celebrating this. They are laughing at the poor boy saddled with a line of insane children and grandchildren, and at the dethroned princess sullied with a bastard line. That's what Robert wants. He would never allow a true-born son to marry Daenerys, let alone the heir of a great house. He'd sooner kill them both, and he still might. That's why I've spent so much in fortifying their castle. Robert is very likely to raise arms against them on a whim the moment Daenerys announces she is pregnant."
"Then why didn't you push back the wedding?" Catelyn asked, shocked and ashamed at the revelation.
Ned sighed again. "Because the rumours started to spread in court again. Daenerys unmarried was still a threat to Robert's reign, and Tywin Lannister might be bold enough to send an assassin up here, even though Robert wouldn't dare. But with them married, her line is sullied. Her name is gone. Better yet that it was in time to receive the royal retinue."
"But why don't they just go? Surely they can stay in the blessed castle by now. It's no longer a ruin. It can't be, not after so many years of construction." Ned was flabbergasted. Granted, Catelyn was a woman, and he knew women were not taught politics as much as men. But gods, what had Hoster Tolly taught his daughter? Better yet, what was Catelyn teaching his daughters? How to be perfectly empty-headed? How would they make good marriages if they were only trophies on their husbands' mantles? Maybe he was still biased to how Lyanna was, keen and interested and butting into everything. And his headache had returned.
Catelyn, if I send them away, the first thing Cersei Lannister is going to say, after she makes a display of being utterly offended, is that I'm hiding them because I'm plotting in Daenerys' favour. Robert won't believe her, but that'll cause enough trouble. Let them come, let them see Daenerys as perfectly subdued northern wife, and everyone will rest easier.
Catelyn snorted, then admonished herself for the unladylike behaviour. That girl does not understand the concept of subdued. Ned wanted to laugh again. In what little world did his wife live?
She understands it just fine. It's not who she is, but when her life is the prize, she can pretend to be anything she needs to.
A haughty thought went through his mind. Daenerys had always refused lessons with Septa Mordain. "All due respect, Lord Stark," the girl had said at 6 years old, "but a dragon answers to no god." Her nanny had laughed and smiled proudly, and Ned saw no reason to deny the girl. But Sansa and Arya? He had allowed Catelyn to manage that. He had allowed Catelyn to take charge of their children's education. Oh, 7L's one more thing he had grossly overlooked. He couldn't allow his daughters to be passive pawns, broodmares to give their husbands heirs and nothing else. They needed a basic understanding of the world, and though there was no need to make them experts in diplomacy, Arya, who was too much like her aunt in ways the only looks, was certainly taking her lessons with Septa Lewin more to heart than those with Septa Mordain. But Sansa was the perfect lady. She dreamt of princes and knights and songs. Ned sighed. He couldn't allow their heads to remain focused on simply nonsense. How else were they to manage a keep? To manage vassals and servants without offending anyone? He would talk to the maester, see what they could do about the girls' lessons. Jon looked dismayed at the pile of paperwork. "Do we have to?" he whined. "Yes, we do, Lord Starling," Sam said with a laugh. Jon rolled his eyes. "I told you to call me Jon." Fine. I'm sorry. I know you'd rather be in the training yard right now, but you can hardly ask your father to keep managing your lands. Now can you?"
Jon sighed. "I thought that's why I was paying you."
"Oh, so here we have the ulterior motive of my dashing rescue from the fate of the Black Cloak."
"That's not what I meant," Jon grumbled, sitting down.
"I know," Sam chuckled, "and I have taken the brunt of the work. But for one, you need to sign things, and second, I can hardly do as I please without consulting my lord."
"I think I'd rather be a kid again."
"Would you really?"
Jon smiled. "Very bad thing to say the day after my wedding, isn't it?"
Sam laughed. "Don't let Dany hear you, unless you want her to actually use her bed."
"No, thank you. That bed is only decorative."
They laughed together as Jon picked up the first pack of the pile. Catelyn walked into the sewing room to find Septa Mordain supervising the other girls, and with a very sour look, mostly directed at the huddle in the corner that encompassed Sansa, Arya and Daenerys. "What are you three doing?" Sansa jumped back, panic filling her eyes, and Arya sighed before turning. Daenerys looked up, but wasn't in the least bothered. "I'm working on new clothes for myself, Lady Stark. Sansa and Arya were giving me their opinion." Sansa looked at the cloth in the girl's hands. "For yourself? Those are leather breeches." "They are. Riding breeches." Catelyn was shocked. "You are a lady!" "Last time I checked, yes, I am," Dany said, and Arya bit back a chuckle. "You have no business wearing breeches, let alone riding breeches." Whatever would you need them for? I would have thought it obvious, Lady Stark. For riding, of course. Ladies don't ride horse astride. What would people think? I couldn't care less. I will not allow it! Catelyn yelled. The other ladies, who had been pretending to still be invested in their own work, looked up and abandoned their needles. Daenerys squared her shoulders, having prepared for the confrontation. I will forever be grateful for Lord Stark for fostering me. Catelyn bristled at the clear implication. But I am no longer a ward of House Stark. I am Lady Starling, and I shall run my household as I see fit. You may run your household to the ground for all I care, Catelyn said lowly, the moment you get to the Blessed Island. But you are in Winterfell, and you will do what I say when I say it. She snatched the unfinished breeches. This will be made for one of the boys, or it will be torn to shreds. Daenerys stood up at once, wincing slightly. You are not my mistress, Lady Stark. I do not have to do as you order me. You are in my home. I am a guest in your home. But I do not see why I shouldn't wear what I please, so long as I am not disrespectful. Wearing breeches is a disrespect. A disrespect to your host and your gods. Daenerys scoffed. Gods have better things to concern themselves with than what I wear or not. You do not get to criticize the gods, you insolent girl! Criticize? Daenerys was taken aback. I didn't criticize anyone, except perhaps your lack of sense just now. Oh, you! Catelyn seemed about ready to step forward and strike Daenerys, but the whole situation changed as the door opened.
What is the meaning of this? Ned asked, looking around the room. You can hear the yelling from the training yard.
This girl is being disrespectful. Oh, but what can you expect from a child forced to marry a bastard?
Enough!
Ned snapped powerfully, seeing Daenerys ready to slap Catelyn.
I will not have that word spoken about my son ever again, Catelyn. You do so one more time at your own peril. Anyone does so again, and it will be an insult to myself and my house. Now, I want to know what is the meaning of this. You are high-born ladies, not low women yelling for the last of fish in the barrel.
I was making myself new clothes, Lord Stark. Daenerys started, though her voice and hands shook with anger. And a Lady Stark came, accused me of being improper, and forbade me to wear them because I was being disrespectful to the gods. Ned blinked. He must have heard wrong.
Disrespectful to the gods? He asked, and Dany nodded. And why, in the name of the old gods and the new, would they even care about what someone wears? Were you for some reason debasing yourself, Lady Starling?
She is making breeches! Catelyn yelled, waving the leather in front of herself. Breeches, Ned! To ride astride a horse! Ned looked from Catelyn's face to the piece of the garment.
I'm failing to see the problem.
Catelyn was apoplectic. She is a lady! She has no business sitting astride a horse! Only whores! Everyone in the room gasped. That wasn't a word you heard every day among high-born ladies. Ned's face was stormy.
Considering my own sister only rode horses astride, and was considered by the whole North as a very good rider, I'd take a great care with my next words if I were you,
he warned, and Catelyn deflated, suddenly ashamed and quiet.
If Lady Starling wishes to wear breeches and ride horses, that is a matter of House Starling, to be discussed between Lord and Lady Starling. You have no say in the matter, Catelyn.
I do when her actions poison the minds of my daughters. It is a sin, Ned.
I don't see how. And I can hardly judge as such, when doing so would implicate shaming my Lord Father and Lady Sister, not to mention the generations of Starks before me. That is how things are done in the North, Lady Stark.
My daughters will not.
My daughters,
Ned said in a low and assertive voice,
are daughters of the North, and they will ride as they please. Therefore, unless you'd rather they hitch their skirts up and put their thighs on display to the world, I suggest you allow them to wear breeches. For riding, he insisted, looking straight at Arya, who was happy all the same.
Catelyn threw down the leather breeches on the table, turned around, and left the room in a right fury. Arya jumped up to hug her father. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you! Ned chuckled, hugging her back.
I mean it, Arya. The breeches are for riding, and only that. You are still a lady.
Fine, fine. I'll go ask Kylo to help me find more leather. And with that, she was gone. I'm sorry, Lord Stark, Daenerys said. I never meant to create a scene.
There's nothing to forgive, Daenerys. You were in the right, and Catelyn needed to hear it. Now go, finish your clothes.
Ned?
Benjen called from the door. What is it?
It's winter. She's sick. Feeling his heart shrink again, Ned quickly followed his brother all the way to the stables.
What's wrong with her?
Ned asked as soon as they came back into the back of the stables. Winter was lying on the ground, head pillowed with straw, and Jon was rubbing her neck. The Lord's heart pulsed painfully. Old age, my lord, Joseph, the horse trainer said.
What did Holland say?
Ned asked, looking around but not seeing the master of horse in the stables. The older man shrugged. He went to Maester Lewin to see about a remedy or other, but said she won't make it much longer. No. She's the oldest here. Been getting stubborn with her old age, my lord. Only Lord Starling can get her to calm down these days. Ned curved one side of his mouth in a half-smile. Of course Jon would manage to handle the most stubborn mare Winterfell had ever seen. Only one other person had before. She calms down with her offspring too, Benjen said, but only Jon could get her to calm down completely, even with Holland and Joseph present. Ned sighed, dismissing the stableman.
I brought that mare all the way back from Dawn,
he said quietly to his brother.
I just wanted one last piece of her to stay alive.
Benjen smiled.
It is. As much as Leah loved that mare, as much as they were complements of each other. One part of.
Ned threw him a censoring look and Benjen quieted.
Did they even ever tell you the ironic part?
Ned frowned.
What part?
Benjen chuckled.
You said when you left King's Landing you needed more horses. You went to the stables and managed to save his prized horse from Robert's order of cleansing. I know. It was cruelty to a horse that never chose its master.
Benjen laughed again.
Every colt and filly Winter birthed was sired by that stud. After he died, she took no other partner, birthed no other foal. She only answers to Jon, is only soothed by him, and her foals are stubborn little things, wild and irreverent, and only Jon can tame them. This is a funny little world we live in, brother,
Ned said with a chuckle. It is. And magic is subtle within it.
We are not discussing this again, Benjen.
Ned sighed, anticipating the tiresome argument from which they both already knew the other's position.
Big brother,
Benjen insisted.
He is old enough. No, he isn't.
Ned cut in dryly, his dark mood getting the best of him.
They might be married, but they are children. And I won't.
He took a deep breath.
I won't have this out when Robert is on his way north.
Ned turned to leave, but Benjen's words still caught him. Are you afraid of Robert? Or are you afraid he won't forgive you? That he won't call you father again? Ned stormed off without answering. How is Winter? Daenerys asked as Jon walked in the room.
He sighed. Not very good.
Holland said she won't gallop anymore. Not with that leg. Standing will be painful for her, so she'll probably lie down as much as she can. And horses don't do well on the ground. So she'll just... She is old, Jon. She lived a long and happy life.
I know. It's just... I don't know why I like her so much.
I don't think this is the kind of answer we're supposed to have. She's the mother of your own stud, the little fool you grew up with.
Jon chuckled. Uncle Benjen used to call me a centaur when I was younger. Do you remember?
Dany smiled. I do. You went on the back of that foal as soon as you both learned to walk. You grew up together. You have a bond, like you and Ghost do. She laughed. You know, when we were children and Lady Stark was telling me you were wicked and no good at all, I remember watching you with your nanny, playing with Winterstorm, and thinking, how can he be bad if he's so kind?
Jon smiled. I love that horse. Which reminds me, did you finish making your breeches?
Daenerys rolled her eyes. Yes, she came in, though, and we started arguing. Your father intervened.
Jon frowned, and she told him what had happened that afternoon. He chuckled. Well, at least she'll be properly embarrassed before her beloved gods once Arya starts riding around.
You should have seen her face when your father told her to allow breeches, or Arya would show her thighs to everyone. Daenerys laughed. I thought she would fall back with the vapours.
Jon laughed too, wrapping his arms around his wife. Then let me know when your riding clothes are ready. I have a surprise for you.
She smiled, but no amount of prompting and teasing made him tell her. In the end, the subject ended when Jon rolled beneath him, and their lips joined. Benjen was waiting for his brother in his study. Ned sighed as he walked in, seeing the other man's determined face, and knowing what was coming.
I'm not in the mood for this, little brother.
We'll have it anyway, Benjen said, uncaring for Ned's uneasiness. You didn't answer me. What are you afraid of? Ned looked guiltily to the fire crackling in the hearth before looking back to Benjen.
Robert, nothing is more important than Jon's safety. If his hatred is the price I must pay for his life, it is one that I will pay, however bitterly I shall feel.
I'll never dispute your position as his father, but...
Yet you will all the same.
Ned, please.
Everything before the word but is horseshit, Benjen.
Jon deserves to know, Ned, Benjen insisted. It's his life.
Exactly. It's his life. I won't allow it to become his death.
He deserves to know where he comes from. He deserves to know who his mother is.
He deserves to live, Ned yelled back. I promised her I'd protect him. He lowered his voice, aware that walls often had ears.
I doubt she would have wanted...
She's no longer here to say what she would have wanted.
Benjen looked at his brother seriously. Will you ever forgive her for leaving? He asked, and Ned clenched his jaw, looking away. Will you ever forgive yourself?
If I'd been there...
It wouldn't have made a difference, big brother.
You know that.
Deep down you do. Benjen stopped and sighed, finishing his sentence in a whisper. Lyanna was impulsive, but it was Brandon wishing to delay his marriage, making the stupidity of disregarding Leah's message and riding south to King's Landing that ruined everything. And I think it's time you accepted that.
She loved you the most,
Ned said quietly as well. Benjen sighed, his hand on the doorknob. Maybe. Or maybe she just loved playing with me more than brooding with you. But since we're both being honest, if I had been standing right next to you when she made the choice, Jon would still be calling you his father. Benjen left the room, door slamming shut behind him. Ned kept looking at the fireplace. He was getting too old for this. And though it pained him to admit, Benjen was right. Ned was too old to be afraid of ghosts. Across the narrow sea, Sir Jorah Mormont arranged a passage on a ship heading west. The Dothraki woman who had brought him the information that would allow him to go home was walking down the harbour, trading for new clothes and food for their journey. How valuable, he wondered, would Robert Baratheon think his information was? Well, he'd find out, as soon as he got to King's Landing, and found a little bird to pass on the song. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed. Okay, so basically it's the calm before, isn't it? I like the bits of the subtle magic showing through, like Benjamin said. Jon being close with Winter, who was Lyanna's horse. And if you didn't pick it up, Lyanna's horse only ever had falls with Rhaegar's horse. And one of their falls is Jon's. I just love that. I love that so much. And Dany standing up to Catelyn because she's now Lady Starling rather than just Lady Targaryen. Show that fire rose dragon. Love it. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.